Put a special mark on this so that I recognise this when I come back. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Oh, you're most welcome.
I think after watching those scenes and seeing obviously what Sikhs have been through in such tough times, we would like to find it from yourselves and receive your feedback on the programme itself. We would like to know, for example, what you learned, what you thought of the programme, your feedback. Was it a good programme? Was it all factual? Were some parts not true? Were things slightly incorrect? And generally, we would like to find out from yourselves exactly how, as Sikhs, in future, we could create more programmes very similar to the programmes coming yesterday. Firstly, I would like to speak to Sarvjit Singh, who watched the programme yesterday, and we would like to find out exactly what your thoughts were on the programme itself.
Well, when I found out from a lot of people that the BBC were making a documentary about 84, my initial reaction was 25 years later there's going to be some new light shed on the matter, there's going to be a new perspective. And although when I did watch it, some scenes were quite harrowing and it was nice to see an individual going on a personal journey, what I felt when I watched it was that the documentary was quite biased. In fact, I found quite shamelessly biased against certain individuals who were key to the whole subject. And I think that bias, when I was watching it, I felt that it gave our whole history after 47, during 84 and after 84, a very negative perspective.
I think you're obviously talking about the scenes, obviously in the car duct Operation Blue Star, is that right?
Yeah.
Now, subject one of the things, I mean, I think people in Nottingham as well also wrote a letter to the BBC was the programme itself did not actually start in 1978 when a lot of these the clash against the Nirgari. The programme did miss that itself, and there were parts of obviously, which obviously Sonia and the BBC did tell us obviously that it wasn't a programme to find the facts as much. It's more of a personal journey. But how do you think people who watched the programme yesterday, in the hundreds of thousands, could have benefited from learning the actual origin and about things well before 84 that struck up to this tragic event?
Well, I think you mentioned 78, but I think we can go back way even further back into history, into 1947.
Right.
It mentions in the programme that in 1947, Sant Janel Singh Ji Bhindranwale was born in a very violent year.
Right.
But it doesn't say what that violent year was about.
Right.
And I think I didn't like the way you've got Bhindranwale's name and then the word violence straight away. So
Right. Straight away.
I feel like they were trying to insinuate something right from the get-go. I felt that, and later on, and I was proven right as you watch it further and further, more into the programme. Yeah, he's definitely. I think he was deliberately portrayed negatively, if I may say so.
And yeah, and I agree with that totally. And I think in the backdrop of 47, where Sikhs were they fought tooth and nail for India's freedom. They were promised so much economic prosperity. They were actually promised an independent state. And then what happens in 47 is that the same noose that was hung around Bhagat Singh and Udham Singh by the British, that same noose was hung around the necks of the Sikh Qawm, because they disregarded all promises of freedom,
Right.
of economic and political prosperity. And instead the Indian machinery worked against the Sikh Dharam simply because we were a different religion to the ruling Hindu government. And I think with the programme, I think what happens with the programme is it starts to talk about Santaji wanting things. Santaji wanted this. Sant Janel Singh and his followers wanted this. Santaji wanted what was owed to the Sikhs at the time.
And it's not just he wanted it. Hundreds and thousands of Sikhs wanted it.
Millions.
Now, obviously, they're not all going to get a chance to talk publicly, so they spoke through one man. It was not all his idea. It was not, I wanted this, I want that. People may want to believe that, and that programme which was aired last night is further making the whole cause and for Khalistan even more negative. It's just perceived in a more negative way. Really. It's not just Sant Bhindranwale's view. It's a view of many people.
One thing that I noticed, obviously, a lot of youngsters, British-born youngsters, obviously, who were very young at that time, I thought yeah, it could have done with a slightly better introduction, explaining things, for example, 1978, the Asian Games in 1982, and why Sant had to, why the actual, what led, the Akali Dal party, their failure, what was the, because
I think I can see what you're touching on there, Chan. What happened with Santiji was, and the rest of the Sikh Qawm was, what it says in the documentary is that the Damdami Taksal, the Sikh Qawm, the Akali Dal were making demands about certain things, and they were getting quite violent about what they wanted.
Right.
But if you look at, and they say that, and for me, I think we will touch on this in more depth.
I think we've got a call online. Yeah. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh Ji.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Fateh.
Just want to say about the BBC show that was shown on.
Right.
I also found it very biased, and I've spoken to a number of Sikhs today who have gone back to work, after last night, and have had Hindus approach. I've had a Hindu myself approach me who's in his 30s. And he turned around and said to me, he goes, "Did you see that program on Golden Temple? Wow, I didn't know that was what happened." And I said, well, it wasn't an accurate representation because it wasn't one person that was responsible, which is what was shown to the audience. And he said, well, who do you think was responsible? And I said, the Indian government. And there's just so many things that were missed out in this report. For example, in 1960, when the Constitution was drawn up, India wrote the Constitution, although Sikhs have given over 90% worth of sacrifices for the independence of India, yet we were termed as Hindus. There was no rights whatsoever in terms of, just a simple thing. If you wanted a radio show or a train named after Amritsar, Golden Temple Express, we were denied those rights. It just went on and on and on. And for example, when they talked about the victims of, in Delhi, she used the term riots. It wasn't riots, it was pogroms. And these have been proved facts by human rights agencies, by Hindus, by Christians, by non-Sikhs. They've proved it over and over again that this was an operation, literally, it was a genocide. So I was just wondering that, with all this it was brilliant seeing somebody's journey taking place, but at the same time, we're a young generation, we're trying to re-educate everyone, we're in the midst of re-educating everyone about what actually happened.
Thank you.
For example, she didn't mention about how badly Sikh families were treated. I mean, what about a 3-month-old baby that was put on a block of ice because her mother didn't know where her husband was, her Sikh husband was, who was meant to be in a movement? That was completely innocent.
Yeah.
So,
I think we've got so many calls. We've just Benji, thank you so much for your call.
No problem.
We'll come back to obviously answering some of these. And I think we've got another call on the line. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Hello,
Ravinder Singh bol rahe ji.
Haan ji, Ravinder Singh ji.
Haan ji, a few points on the documentary.
Please.
I'll say in English and some in Punjabi.
Please, haan ji.
The main point was that Anandpur Sahib resolution was not talked about.
Anandpur resolution.
And Pindranwale, Jarnail Singh Pindranwale, Santi, they talked about the economic situation in Punjab. They talked about the water situation. They talked about the farmers suffering. They never mentioned any of that. All they talked about, they painted him like if he's a Bin Laden or something.
Yeah, I think a lot of people said that too. Yeah.
No. I think the documentary was made in a very apologetic way, not to offend anyone. So that documentary ended up offending us like a slap in the face. And the main situation in Punjab at the time was the onslaught from the likes of Narankari, our rights are being eradicated, and 5 demands for the Anandpur Sahib resolution. And when you come back to the picture that was painted now, like I said, these are Taliban, we got to ask the documentary researchers, not just the maker researchers, who is responsible for making a documentary, and who did they get advice from to make such a documentary?
See, just before you continue, I think on Friday, when obviously the production team were here, they did mention obviously they had a thing called Indrajit Singh, who was obviously one of their advisors. Now, now to get me wrong, I think advisors for something so sensitive, they should be very, very well equipped and very well trained. How do you think? I mean, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to say something. The program was framed as a personal journey for somebody to unravel the events of 1984. Now, that if you want to unravel 1984, you can't do it in 1 hour. Secondly,
I agree.
It's so sensitive that you need to know what you're talking about. And if there's any points or literature or images put forward, then they need to be done in a non-biased way. Okay?
Sure.
Now, in my opinion, Sanjay Singh Ji, he was already sabotaged before the program come on. I'll tell you why. Because if you read all the advertisements, before the show even came on, it was about the militant Sant Janel Singh. Now, what does militant mean, guys? What does militant mean?
Just correcting that he's saying, she didn't, that sort of talk itself, the program didn't actually refer to Sant Janel Singh. It's more Janel Singh, but